Alone at home, Dad's horrific discovery about his twins and the nanny. You won't believe this. The sun was just dipping below the horizon, painting the house in an eerie, shadowy glow. Eric Hartman pulled into his driveway, exhausted after a long day at work. The house looked normal, but there was something off, a chill that wrapped around him like a shroud. He had been looking forward to this evening home with his 6-year-old twins, Lily and Ben. Yet, his instincts were on high alert. When he stepped inside, the smell hit him first, a sweet, cloying scent that made his stomach churn. To any passerby, it might have seemed innocuous, but for Eric, it felt like a warning. He called out, "Hey, guys. Anyone home?" Silence swallowed his words, heavy and suffocating. A tightness gripped his chest. The living room was a mess. Toys were scattered everywhere, but the twins were nowhere in sight. Panic started to bubble inside him like a pot about to boil over. He flicked on the lights and moved cautiously through the house. Each creak of the floorboards felt like a scream. Then he remembered Claire, their new nanny. Just last week, she had come with glowing references, raving reviews. Was something wrong? As his heart hammered in his chest, he pushed open the door to the playroom, and what he saw made his stomach drop. There, in the middle of the room, lay a series of strange, intricate drawings covering the walls, colorful yet grotesque. The images twisted into bizarre shapes, clowns with sharp teeth and trees that seemed to reach out with claw-like branches. It looked like a nightmare brought to life. A bead of sweat trickled down his back as he thought about his sweet children. Had Claire done this? Was she even okay? He raced to the kitchen, calling for the twins again, his voice cracking with urgency. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. A dish left unwashed seemed like a hint at a larger chaos lurking, and that when he spotted a single red crayon rolling across the floor. It was the same crimson hue as the strange drawings. He scooped it up, his hands trembling involuntarily. Had the twins been messing around? Or was there something more sinister going on here? Just then, he could hear a soft giggle coming from upstairs. A cold dread washed over him. What was so funny? He moved swiftly up the stairs, his heart pounding wildly. The giggles grew louder, echoing through the quiet house, and with each step, the tension climbed. He reached the door to the twins' room, half open, and paused. The world outside faded away, his breath caught in his throat. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." With a shaky hand, he pushed open the door. Inside, it was darker than he expected, the curtains drawn tight, shadows flickering against the walls. As his eyes adjusted, he caught sight of Claire sitting on the floor, surrounded by the twins, their heads bent low as if engaged in a grand secret. "What are you all doing?" he demanded, his voice sharper than he intended. The laughter stopped. Silence fell heavy in the room as all three turned to face him. Claire's smile had vanished, replaced with a look he couldn't place. Was it fear, confusion, or something else? And then, from behind them, the twins spoke in unison, their tiny voices chilling him to the bone. "We found her diary, Dad. It told us everything." Eric's breath lingered in the air, thick and heavy. The twins' eyes gleamed with an unsettling mix of innocence and mischief that made the back of his neck prickle. Claire sat motionless, her lips pressed into a tight line, a thief of the warmth that had once filled the room. He stepped forward, heart racing. "What diary? What do you mean?" Lily and Ben exchanged a glance, their expressions locked in conspiratorial secrecy. "It's a secret diary, Daddy. It has pictures and stories about us." Lily chirped, excitement making her voice tremble, but there was an edge of fear that presented itself, like a storm cloud threatening rain. "Where is it?" Eric demanded, trying to maintain calm but feeling his rationality slipping. His mind raced through possibilities, curses hidden behind their whimsical paintings, missteps in hiring Claire, or perhaps something worse. "It's right here." Ben pointed, and with that gesture, the air grew colder. The little boy crawled closer to the wall. No, not the wall but a canvas propped against it. Beneath it was an open, worn diary, ink smudged from the moisture in the air. The shadows flickered over its surface. "She did all these drawings, Dad," he added, voice lowering as though he was sharing a dark secret that shouldn't be spoken too loud. "Put it down," Eric shouted, moving towards them, fueled by an impulse to shield his children from whatever dark revelation awaited. Claire stood, her figure silhouetted against the dim light, tension radiating from her like a warning sign. "Eric, don't." Her voice hung in the air, a cold, razor-thin line of desperate defense. "They shouldn't see those." "Why not? What's in it?" The questions tumbled out before he could stop them, each syllable was a balloon filled with dread about to pop. "Tell him, Claire," Ben urged, urgency twisting his small features. "There's something scary. It talks about things that happened before." "Before?" Eric echoed, each word tasting bitter. How much of the twins' joy had they spent locked in a web of secrets? With shaky hands, Claire reached for the diary, but Eric moved faster, snatching it up. It was surprisingly light, the pages whispering as he flipped through them. There were sketches of the children, cheerful and smiling, but then came the darker images, shadows creeping in around their faces, an inkling of malice ghosting over the drawings. In wild, scrawling handwriting, the entries twisted tales of nightmares, of fear. A different kind of guardian had taken hold of their dreams. "Stop it, Dad," Lily wailed, tears welling in her eyes. "We wanted to know why she never smiled. You need to listen." A nausea twisted in his gut, realizing now that Claire wasn't the innocent, eager nanny he had hoped for. "Who are you really?" he whispered, looking at Claire not as a caregiver, but as someone who concealed her past under layers of deceit. Claire faltered, her eyes darting sideways, panic flaring. "You don't understand. I can help them," she cried, desperation tracing her features, but the atmosphere thickened with distrust. Eric felt his protective instincts firing like flares in the night sky. Whatever this secret was, it had been shared between his children and Claire, and it threatened to consume them all. Suddenly, the twins began to chant softly, their voices melding into an eerie rhythm that echoed off the walls. The stories we know what she did." The hairs on Eric's arms prickled. "What did she do?" he pressed, fear knifing into the air. As they continued to speak in that sing-song manner, the world around him began to twist. And then, in a moment that froze time, the nursery door behind them creaked open slowly, revealing the darkness beyond. A shape loomed in the doorway, obscured by shadows but drawing nearer with each chilling heartbeat. Eric's heart thundered in his chest. "Who's there?" he demanded, dread tightening its grip. The unsettling sound of quiet laughter floated out from the shadow. The twins turned toward the door, their giggles turning sinister. "It's our friend," they chimed in unison, and Eric froze, ice coursing through his veins. But in that moment, everything shifted. The real terror was only just beginning. Eric's pulse quickened, the sound of his heart pounding in his ears like a war drum. He stared at the doorway, half expecting to see a face he recognized, but the darkness clung to the figure, warping it into something distorted and terrifying. The twins moved closer, their giggles morphing into an unsettling chant that sent chills racing down his spine. "Stop! Get back!" he shouted, feeling the air shift as dread coiled around him like a serpent ready to strike. He stepped toward the children, ready to pull them behind him, but they didn't move. Instead, they looked up at the shadow, their eyes wide with delight, as though it was a long-lost friend returning home. "Please, I want you to listen." Claire's voice cracked through the tension, rising above the eerie chant. She stepped toward Eric, desperation flooding her expression. You need to understand what happened. They're not just stories. Not just stories. Eric spat, his mind racing. A mixture of anger and confusion coursed through him. There was something deeply wrong here, and he felt it in his bones. What happened, Claire? What did you do? But Claire's gaze was fixed on the doorway, her expression twisted with fear, as if recognizing something or someone from her past. Eric's stomach dropped. Then the shadow spoke, a voice slithering through the silence like smoke, wrapping around them. It's been so long, children. I've missed you. The words dripped with a venomous sweetness, and Eric felt the need to retch. Who are you? Eric demanded, each word a fight against the panic rising in his throat. The twins giggled again, blissfully ignorant, while the figure took a fateful step into the light. The shadows unraveled, revealing a woman draped in darkness, her features unmistakably familiar. Eric's heart sank as recognition hit him like an icy wave. No, it can't be Mommy. The twins squealed, stepping toward the woman as if bewitched. Get away from her. Eric roared, but the children's joy surged, drowning out his warning, as they enveloped her in a hug. Claire stepped back, her eyes wide as she sputtered incoherently. You should have never let them see. What is happening? Eric's voice caught in his throat, rage battling the confusion. His breath quickened, panic tightening around his chest like a vice. You're not their mother. The woman smiled, a knowing look dancing in her eyes, darkness pooling around her like a sinister aura. Oh, but I am. I've always been with them. Just like you just forgot. Eric's mind reeled, fractured fragments of memory slipping through his thoughts like sand through fingers. No, he muttered, disbelief gnawing at him. What had he overlooked? Shadows from their past were coiling around him, threatening to suffocate his sanity. You died, I saw you die. Did you really? The figure's smile twisted, as she tilted her head. Your precious memory erased failure. I've been waiting for this. They needed me. I needed them. Eric rocked back on his heels, reality crashing into him. The diary, the whispers, the twins, had Claire been trying to protect them, or was she a willing participant in this madness? Fear ignited within him, fueling his need to protect his children at all costs. Leave them alone. He yelled, but his words hung in the air, weightless yet heavy with the truth he could barely grasp. The woman knelt, opening her arms. Come to Mommy, my loves. We're going to play a new game. One you'll love. Her voice was a sugary poison, weaving a false enchantment that surrounded the twins. No. Eric lunged forward, but the fabric of the air warped, and the nursery distorted into a twilight haze, trapping him in a world he didn't understand. The chant rose again, the twins' innocent voices merging with their mother's, an unearthly chorus echoing through the room. The stories we know what she did. As despair turned into rage, Eric felt the lines of reality blur, everything spinning out of control. Clenching the diary, he screamed at the top of his lungs. Get away from them. Outside, the winds howled, raging against the bricks, a chaotic tempest. Reflecting the turmoil inside. From somewhere distant, a whisper reached him, laced with venom. You're too late, Eric. You can't save them, it's already begun. The shadows deepened, a darkness thicker than Eric had ever known, and as the world around him began to close in, one thought slammed through his mind. What if the past was not just a ghost, but a curse that could awaken? He had to act before it was too late. Eric's heart thundered in his chest, each beat echoing the warning in his head. The air felt thick, oppressive, as he fought against the air that pressured him from every angle. The woman, their mother, was kneeling, a picture of near-hypnotic allure, and it sent a shiver down his spine. He had the overwhelming urge to turn and flee, but he couldn't abandon his children, not to this thing. Stop this. He yelled, but his voice was swallowed by the crescendo of the twins' chants, their eyes glimmering with an unsettling, almost otherworldly light. It was as if they were caught in a trance, completely enraptured by the presence before them. The woman's smile grew wider, revealing teeth too perfect, too white, like the predator she was trying to suppress. "Haven't you missed me, Eric? I've had to watch from the shadows, waiting for the right moment." And here we are. Her words slid through the cracks of his mind, each syllable burrowing deeper into the dark recesses of his memories. He couldn't let this go on. He took a step forward, determined. "Get away from them." The command cracked like a whip in the air, but it was as if an invisible barrier held him back. Claire's face was a mask of horror, her hands trembling at her sides. "You don't understand. She can't be fought. Not like this." "Then how?" Eric spat, fury and desperation spiraling within him. "What do I do?" The chant echoed, relentless. "We know what she did, we know what she did." The twins swayed, the tension in the air palpable. Suddenly, they began to vibrate with an energy that sent ripples of fear through Eric. No, stop!" he shouted, straining against the unseen forces that felt ready to pull everything apart. "Eric," Claire's voice trembled, "if she's back, it means she's been summoned. The stories we mocked, they were warnings." Every nerve in his body was alive, the very essence of survival clawing at him. He had to break this spell. Thinking fast, he glanced down at the diary. The air felt charged, and he could almost hear its secrets whispering, urging him to tap into the power held within those pages. "Please," he said, his voice low this time as he focused on Claire. "Help me. We have to break whatever this is before she gets them." Claire nodded, her face paling but determination flashing in her eyes. "We have to recall the real story. It's embedded in that diary, but you have to read it loudly. She can't control what you remember." He hurriedly flipped through the pages, his hands trembling over the ink. The words twisted and morphed into a disturbing narrative filled with grim details that made his stomach lurch. He found the passages referencing their mother, details he'd long since buried. "Mommy's coming back." The twins chanted innocently, excitement mingling with shadows as they edged toward her once again. "Not this time." Eric ground his teeth, locking eyes with Claire. "On 3. Ready?" Claire nodded, and fear flickered in her eyes, but alongside it was an ember of hope. 1, 2, 3. As he began to read, his voice rose, commanding and bellowing, fueled by desperation and love. He poured out the truth, dredging up memories of laughter and warmth mingled with dark circumstances they had all forgotten. The chant began to falter, the unholy allure breaking as Eric's words sliced through the haze surrounding them. "Listen to me," he shouted. "You're not her, she's just a shadow of what you're meant to be." But each syllable came with a cost. The shadows began to writhe, and he could feel them clawing at him, pushing back. The room shuddered, walls bending under a weight unseen. Eric's breath caught in his throat. Flickers of light began to dance around the darkness as if the very fabric of reality was splitting. "Stop!" the woman hissed, as rage poured from her lips. Before he could utter another word, the world exploded into chaos. Then silence fell. Eric's gaze darted around the nursery. Was it truly over? The twins stood frozen, eyes wide as they looked from him to the shadow, no longer encased in a trance. In that moment, they hesitated, and only one thought echoed in his mind: had he freed them, or had he opened a door that could never be shut again? As clarity returned, the woman, now a fragment of their past, began to dissolve into the shadows, but not before one last whisper echoed, chilling him to the bone. "You can't escape the truth forever, Eric. She'll be back, and next time, she won't be alone." Behind him, the twins gasped, continuing to watch, oblivious and innocent. He turned to face them, the weight of his choices heavy on his shoulders, heart racing anew. What had he really unleashed? The truth would come eroding all they knew and haunting them once again. The air felt electric, thick with tension as Eric fought to regain his composure. It was quiet now, too quiet. The only sounds were the soft breaths of the twins, their innocent eyes fixed on him, wide and glassy as if they had just woken from a bad dream or had simply traded one nightmare for another. "Daddy?" Lily's voice trembled, breaking the silence like glass shattering on the floor. She took a tentative step toward him, her small hand reaching out. "What happened?" "Everything's okay, sweetheart," he managed to say, though his heart was still racing, a tightened knot of fear in his chest. "Just stay close to me." He glanced back at the fading shadows, where their mother's presence had just been something dark and unsettling lingering in the corners of the room. The diary lay open on the floor, pages fluttering faintly in a breeze that wasn't there. The words danced in his mind, fragments of the stories that had haunted his childhood, tales he had long thought were nothing more than myths passed down to terrorize children. But now, he felt them crawling under his skin. "It's okay, Lil," he repeated, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "We're going to figure this out. Together." "Is Mommy really back?" Sam asked, his voice small, saturated with naivety that screamed innocence. "I thought she was gone forever." Eric's heart sank. How could he explain that the woman they remembered, the one they had mourned, had returned, twisted into something dark? Something he had unwittingly conjured with his own voice. "We'll talk about Mommy later," he said quickly, wiping sweat from his brow. The unanswered questions loomed heavy not just for them but for him, too. "Claire," he called out, searching for her in the thickening shadows. "We need to regroup." Claire appeared from behind the door, eyes wide with uncertainty, shadowed by fear. "I can't believe she's really here." Her voice shook, a whisper barely above a breath. "What did you unleash, Eric?" "I thought I was saving them," he replied, anger flashing in his chest. "But now, I don't know if I really brought her back." "Not just her," Claire's voice lowered to a whisper, fraught with dread. "They said she wouldn't be alone." Eric turned his attention back to the twins. They were huddled together, their small bodies pressing against each other for comfort. He saw the innocence disappearing from Sam's and Lily's eyes. It was replaced by a flicker of something else, dread or confusion, he couldn't tell. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "No matter what happens, stay by my side. Promise me." "I promise," they chorused, the unison of their voices sending chills down his spine, but deep down, he could feel a growing sense of foreboding. Why was she back? What had she wanted? Shadows stretched along the walls, almost breathing, pulsing with the night. He felt a knot tighten. "Eric, look!" Claire interrupted his spiraling thoughts, pointing toward the diary. "There's something else, another passage." Eric snatched the diary from the floor, his pulse quickening as he scrutinized the page. The text began to reshape itself, letters twisting in front of his eyes as if they were living. "It's changing." He swallowed hard, real dread flooding him now, then he read aloud, "The veils between worlds have thinned. She returned stronger and with companions the ones she lost." Shouts echoed in the distance, muffled voices chanting an ominous chorus that sent a shiver up his spine. The shadows surged, and his breath caught in his throat. The twins clung tighter together, wide-eyed and horrified. "Daddy, what's happening? Hold on!" He yelled, but before he could process the reality crashing over them, they felt it, the temperature dropped. An icy chill swept through the room, sending waves of trembling panic. The whisper rose again, "You can never escape me, Eric, I'll come back for what's mine." In that instant, the lights flickered violently, shadows spilling out like sinister currents, swirling, twisting into shapes. And then he saw them, faces that shouldn't have been there, flickering in the dark, angry and filled with desperation. "Eric!" Claire screamed, her face pale as she backed away. He felt his world start to spin as the shadows swallowed her voice alongside the twins' cries. With adrenaline flooding his system, he lunged forward, but the darkness wrapped around him tighter, pulling him back as tendrils of despair clawed at his heart. "Get away from them!" he roared, but it felt like shouting against a hurricane. What was this force? What had he awakened? And just as fast as it began, the darkness erupted into blinding light. Eric shielded his eyes, the sound of laughter and cries melding into a dizzying loop. And at the center of it all, the woman stood, a twisted reflection of everything he feared. Then the world went black. The question echoed within the void, hanging in the silence like a ghost: how could they fight something that had come from their own blood? Eric awoke, gasping for breath, the taste of fear clinging to the back of his throat. The darkness was thick around him, suffocating, almost wet. Instinctively, he reached out, his fingers brushing against something cool and smooth. He pulled away, heart racing, bracing himself for the worst. "Claire!" he shouted, panic surging through him as he struggled to find his voice. Silence hugged him like a shroud. The air felt dense, heavy with unshed tears and dread that he tried to concentrate on any familiar sounds, any indication of where the twins might be. But even the soft breaths from before seemed lost amid the echoing stillness. Shadows writhed at the edges of his vision, dark figures dancing just beyond the reach of his understanding. "Hold tight, girls," he spoke softly, though his heart thundered. Where was Claire? Where were the twins? Their absence clawed at him, twisting his stomach into knots. Focusing on the cool ground beneath him, he dragged himself up. His legs felt weak, but he pushed through, straining against the overwhelming darkness. He stumbled forward, arms outstretched, feeling for any surface, any indication of safety. Just then, a flicker of light caught his attention. It was faint, pulsating like a heartbeat. As he felt his way toward it, his mind raced. What if it was a trap? What if it was her again? But something deep inside urged him on. He reached the source, a small window obscured by grime and shadows. Peering through, he was met not by the familiar sights of his backyard but by the chaotic spectacle of swirling mist and distant silhouettes. Figures wavered, shrouded in half-light, their faces twisted in expressions of sorrow or rage. "Help us," they seemed to whisper, their voices rising and falling like the tide. Chills racked his body. What kind of torment had he unleashed? "Get back!" Eric yelled, his own voice snapping him from the fleeting grasp of panic. He needed to take control again, needed to pull his family back from whatever abyss he had opened. Turning away from the window, he staggered back into the room. He cursed himself for letting fear take over. Letting compassion for those shadowy figures pull at his heartstrings. They were lost, not just from him, but from whatever love he once knew, and then he heard it, a faint giggle. It echoed softly through the thick silence, pure and innocent. "Sam? Lily?" he called, straining to listen. The light from his phone flickered in his pocket. He pulled it out, its dim glow illuminating the room in a ghostly hue. "Daddy!" A voice chimed from beyond a door tucked into the corner, slightly ajar. He rushed to it, heart pounding, every muscle tensed. "I'm coming." In that instant, a wave of relief washed over him. He threw the door open, instinctively lurching forward into the room. The sight that greeted him was jarring. In the glow of his phone, he saw his twins sitting on the floor, surrounded by scattered toys. But beyond them, shadows writhed against the wall, flickering like flames. The shapes were elongating, twisting, and merging into one another, a grotesque parody of life. "Daddy!" Lily exclaimed, her face a mask of both joy and fear. She reached out, and for a moment, it felt like a lifeline, but then came the cold, a sudden draft that snuffed out warmth. The shadows pulsated, drawing closer, hungry. "Stay back!" Eric shouted, moving in between the twins and the encroaching shadows, instincts flaring as adrenaline kicked in. "Please, we want to play," a voice slithered out from the murky darkness, deceptively sweet yet laced with something sinister. "We want to come home too." Eric's chest tightened. They couldn't see what he could, a distortion of familiar figures stretched beyond recognition, faces lost to despair. You're not my family. He cried, grounding himself in that truth even as the shadows crept forward. Daddy, don't. Sam shrieked, fear plastered on his innocent face that he wanted nothing more than to cradle them, to reassure them, to tell them everything would be okay. But could he? That whisper from earlier resonated, you can never escape me as darkness. Encroached ever closer, Eric could feel the electric pulse of the air swirl around him again, thick with inevitability. It drummed in his ears and wrapped around his limbs, almost like a vortex ready to pull him in, and somewhere deep down, fear battled with resolve. Could he confront whatever was waiting past the veil that he had lifted? But just as he readied himself for a fight, the lights flicked on, and the laughter shattered like glass once more, and with that laughter came a chilling realization, they weren't alone anymore. Where had Claire gone? And who were these lost souls that now haunted his home? The question tore through the air as the room pulsed, echoing with promises of dread yet to come. Every breath felt like a countdown. Eric had to figure out how to rescue his twins before the darkness consumed them all. The light flooded the room, casting long shadows against the walls, yet Eric hadn't felt this uneasy since the darkness had first wrapped around him. The giggles of his daughters rang out like a cruel melody. It seemed playful, but beneath the surface, he sensed something sinister. Stay close. He barked, eyes darting around the room, scanning for threats, searching for the source of that malevolent voice. The shadows before him split, retreating ever so slightly, like wolves aware of their prey, yet still hungry. Eric sensed their hunger, a ravenous yearning that clawed at him from inside the wall. Look, Daddy. Sam's innocent tone reached out to him through the sinister haze. He turned to see the twins playing with toys, but they weren't the same toys he had bought for them. These were grotesque caricatures, twisted versions of beloved characters, their eyes hollow, their smiles painted with malice. Why do you have those? He asked, struggling to keep his voice even. The words felt heavy on his tongue. I didn't get those for you. They found them for us, Lily chirped, clutching a doll with dark eyes that seemed to watch Eric with cruel intent. They said we could play forever. A cold dread filled his veins as he stepped closer. The shadows returned, now roiling and morphing. Eric could almost hear them breathing, their movements echoing like whispers of promises too dreadful to comprehend. This wasn't a game. They wanted his girls and they would use any means to take them. Stop playing. He yelled, voice steadying as he swallowed his rising panic. You're dangerous. But Daddy, Lily pouted, her eyes glistening in the dim light. We're having fun. Don't you want to have fun too? The shadows danced menacingly, expanding, circling the room in a sinister rhythm. Eric's heart raced as he reached out, desperate to grab the twins and pull them to safety. Come here. Now. They hesitated, the laughter fading, and watched him with wide, innocent eyes that unnerved him. The playful essence corrupted, rippling into something darker. But they need us, Sam replied, voice trembling as shadows brushed against his small shoulders. The room felt smaller, the encroaching darkness closing in, stifling him. Eric's hands clenched into fists. They don't need you. They're not safe. We have to leave. A sudden gust of wind blew through the room, extinguishing the light from his phone. Panic gripped him, the shadows surged forward, and he felt the chill of desperation. He had to act, to save them. Girls, now. He commanded, his voice slicing through the palpable tension, but the twins only stared. Please, we want to play. The shadows writhed, their whispers thick and heavy, each syllable laced with allure. Join us, you can have so much fun. No. Eric's resolve tightened. These weren't his daughters anymore. Whatever clung to them, whatever had taken shape around his family was a hallucination, a nightmare. Get away from them. He bellowed, putting himself in front of the twins again, and just then, the door behind him creaked open, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness. The hair on Eric's neck stood on end. Claire. He squinted but couldn't make out her face. "Claire!" he shouted, desperate for any sign of her. Eric, the voice was low, a familiar trill, but it echoed strangely, as if bouncing off warped surfaces. The shadows paused, the room still holding its breath. What had she done? Where had she gone? "Help us find our way home," the shadows hissed in unison, their voices rising in an eerie choir, wrapping around him like a chilling embrace. Eric's heart thudded painfully in his chest. This wasn't just about his kids anymore. The clock was ticking with every second, and he could feel the darkness clawing its way into his mind. He had to keep fighting. He needed to protect his family. "Claire! What is going on?" The shadows stirred, confusion churning with malice. But instead of a response, the figure swayed slightly, and as the light flickered back on, Eric was met with a haunting smile, one that was both painfully familiar and utterly foreign. "Let us play together." Eric, the air smelled of lost memories and unspoken horrors, leaving him breathless, knowing nothing would ever be the same if he failed what had truly transpired in their home. And how much of Claire had come back? The answers felt close enough to taste yet perpetually out of reach. The shadows held their breath, and in that moment, time seemed to fracture. Eric's heart raced as he looked into Claire's eyes, or what used to be Claire's eyes. They glinted with a hunger that felt like ice when it met his warmth. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his daughters stood behind him like silent figures in a surreal tableau, caught between innocence and something darker. "Claire, what have you done?" Panic sang in his voice, edged with desperation. The shadows that flitted around the room pulsed with glee, feeding off his fear. "Don't you see? They've invited us," she said, tilting her head in a way that sent a chill straight through him. "Our playtime is just beginning." Eric stepped closer, trying to wrap his arms around his daughters. "No. You can't let them hurt you, sweetheart. You have to fight them." His voice cracked as he spoke, a fragile thread against the looming dread. "They won't hurt us, Dad." Sam's voice was soft, but there was a firmness that felt eerily out of place. "They'll take us to the best place. We can play forever." "What place?" Eric demanded, his voice rising, blending with the cacophony of whispers in the room. "What do you mean forever?" The word hung in the air like a bat ready to strike, and the shadows seemed to thrum with anticipation. "They wish for family," Claire answered flatly, her voice sending icy fingers down Eric's spine. "They want our love. They need it. Catch the light, Eric. Feel it." Eric's hands tightened into fists, nails digging into his palms. "This isn't love, Claire. This is a trap." The room disclosed more of its horror as shadowy figures lurched from the corners, reaching for him and the twins. He felt their tugging like icy hands grasping at his heart, holding him back as he fought to take a stand. "Girls. Listen to me," he pleaded, feeling the weight of the room shift sharply toward doom. "This is wrong. I'm your father. You're not safe here." "We don't want to leave," Lily chimed in, her tone sweet yet laced with contempt. "We're happy." Eric nearly collapsed under the burdens of betrayal and fear coiling around him. The girls weren't just missing, they had been transformed. The haunting echoes of their giggles turned sinister, reverberating through the air. "Please, I don't understand. You have to help me." Desperation tinged his words, pulling Claire's gaze back to him, softening for a fraction of a second. "Help us find our home," she breathed, the shadows pulsing as if in agreement. "You can't fight them, Eric. They always win." A low growl filled the room, the shadows stretching taller, crashing against the walls. Eric stumbled back, recoiling in horror. Everywhere he turned, whispers became screams, echoing thoughts that weren't his own. "Join us, it's safe fun forever." Is this what Claire had encountered? How long had she been enveloped in this nightmare? The realization hit him hard, a punch to the gut. His daughters were slipping away, their voices lost in the undercurrent of chaos and dread. Eric needed a plan. He had to draw them back before it was too late. With a surge of determination, he pushed through the tingling cold, running towards his girls. "We're leaving. We're going home." But as he reached for them, the shadows snagged his ankle, yanking down into their abyss. A scream caught in his throat as the world blurred around him. Suddenly, a flicker of light ignited within the darkness. One faint strand of hope amidst the chaos, their family's laughter, echoing from somewhere deep within. "Follow the light," Eric shouted against the howling remnants. But with those words, a sudden opening formed in the shadows, a glimpse of something unsettling on the other side. A slithering uncertainty surged as he realized it was not salvation but a gaping maw of darkness, ready to swallow him whole. Would he manage to pull his daughters away from the brink? Or would the shadows claim yet another victim in their sinister game? The only thing he knew was that a choice awaited him, and once made, there would be no turning back. The shadows tightened their grip, dragging Eric down into the depths of their malevolence. His heart pounded in his chest, a frantic drumbeat urging him to escape. "No!" he yelled, desperation coloring his voice. As he reached for Claire and the twins, the flickering light behind him dimmed, swallowed by an encroaching darkness that pulsed with hunger. Eric fought against the cold tendrils that whispered lies in his ears, teasing him with sweet promises of love and safety. "I'm here," he shouted, straining against the shadow-esque grip. "You have to listen to me." Suddenly, like a door flung open, he saw a glimmer of recognition flash in Claire's eyes. "Dad!" she gasped, her voice breaking through the haze for an instant, raw with emotion. It felt like a lifeline thrown into a storm. "Claire, you can fight them. You have to remember who you are." He clenched his fists, summoning every ounce of love a father could muster. "I know you're in there. You're not lost." But the shadows screeched, their voices rising like a tide. "Leave her be. This is where she belongs. With us." The walls of the room seemed to breathe, expanding and collapsing as if alive, swirling with dark intent. Panic surged through Eric, anger bubbled beneath, flaring at the impudence of these shadows trying to claim what was his. "Let them go," he roared, wrenching his foot free just enough to gain a momentary advantage. He lunged toward Claire, desperation propelling him forward. "You are my daughters. You have to remember our home, our laughter." The shadows recoiled momentarily, disoriented by his fervor. "Keep him away," they howled as they tried to tighten their stranglehold around him. But that flicker of recognition in Claire's eyes ignited a spark within Eric. "Girls!" he cried out, his voice an anchor against the chaotic rushing of fears around them. "Remember Christmas? The snow? The fireplace crackling with warmth? The stories I read?" For a heartbeat, the shadows hesitated, their hunger seemingly replaced by confusion. The room buzzed with a strange silence. The only sound was Eric's harsh breathing, scrapping against the soft, sinister murmurs. Lily's voice piped up, ethereal and haunting, yet layered with confusion. "Daddy, I remember the stories, yes." He pressed, heart racing with hope. "You loved those stories. You loved that feeling of being safe. Come back to me." The darkness stirred, churning angrily, desperately seeking to quash the light surfacing within his daughters. "No. You are ours," it hissed, a cyclone of despair surrounding them. But Eric would not back down. He fought through the suffocating atmosphere, surging toward them, his urge to protect as primal as it had ever been. "We can still be a family. Stay with me." Their eyes flickered, shrouded in internal battles. Claire's voice came barely above a whisper, fragile as glass. "Dad, I don't want to forget." Suddenly, the shadows screamed, a cacophony that reverberated through buzzing walls. "She is ours. You will lose everything." Eric felt the shadows lurch, a violent surge trying to swallow them all whole, and he clutched at his daughters, grasping for the threads of their connection. Hold on to me. Fight. As the darkness writhed, a glimmer of light broke through, illuminating the faces of the twins, each caught between the memories of their father and the insatiable call of the shadows. The glow grew, flickering like a heartbeat, and for a fleeting moment, Eric thought he saw hope radiate through their expressions. Then, they screamed. The sound shattered the moment, a spine-chilling epithet of despair. Eric's heart dropped, the room spinning around him as the shadows reeled in triumph. Refuse us, and you will pay the price. They hissed, ready to lash out at Eric with a vengeance unlike anything he'd ever known. And as the darkness surged forward, Eric understood one terrifying truth: the battle was far from over. There was still time, but he would have to make a choice, even if it meant risking everything he held dear. Would he embrace the light and possibly save his daughters, or would he plunge into the dark? Drawn by despair's seductive promises? The moment lingered, alive with uncertainty, as the shadows leered with delight. Would the choice he made plunge them further into chaos? With his heart in his throat, Eric knew the next step could change everything. The breath of shadows lingered in the air as Eric Hartman stood at the precipice of dread. Clenching his fists, he focused not on the darkness swirling around him but on the warmth of his children. He needed to break through, he had to do it for them. Fight, Lily. Fight, Sam. He called out, drawing upon every memory he could muster. The laughter they shared felt alive in his heart, mingling with determination and love. Remember the stories I told you? The ones about heroes that faced monsters and won? You can be brave like them. You are brave. The shadows shifted, uncertainty rippled through their smoky forms. Beneath their sinister veil, the flickering light grew ever so slightly, a shimmer of warmth in a vast, cold night. Lily's voice broke through the chaos, trembling yet potent. Daddy, I can see it. The light. Yes. Yes. Eric shouted, charging through the thick, oppressive atmosphere toward his children. You're stronger than this. You are my daughters, and we are connected by love. You can do this. The shadows writhed in fury, but Eric's words struck at their core, a fragile yet determined attack against the void seeking to ensnare his family. Claire's eyes shimmered as they flickered with dramatic clarity, recognition breaking through the haze of darkness. Eric. I'm here. She cried, her confusion overlapping with a mix of fear and love. Just then, Eric seized the moment. Hold on to each other. We're going to break free. He called out, refusing to relent. The twins, looking at their father, began to shine, small beams of light igniting within their once dimmed eyes. We're here, Daddy. Sam echoed, slamming his little fists together in rebellion, a spark igniting deep within. The darkness growled, retreating momentarily as though it sensed the turning tide. Join us, Claire. Eric shouted, and his breath caught as he stepped closer. The real you, not this darkness. You're their mother. You love them. Claire swayed, as if caught in a powerful wind. The shadows hissed, threatening to pull her back, but Eric's will was unyielding, propelling him forward. Come back to us. Remember the laughter, the love. You're stronger than whatever this is. Suddenly, the room erupted into a violent swirl. Eric felt the cold grip around him tugging fiercely, but his resolve stayed steady. He reached for Claire and the twins, hearts pounding in unison. He could see them starting to break free, warmth returning to their faces, mixed with raw courage. No. You can't take them. The shadows screamed, an echo of desperation reverberating in every corner of the room. They are ours. In that chaos, Eric caught his daughter's hands, pulling them close with a fierce embrace. You are mine. You belong with me. We fight together. The shadows recoiled, seeming to writhe in pain. He pressed on, focusing on love, their family, their shared memories. In a split second, a brilliant flash erupted in the darkness, blinding him and leaving nothing but the sound of his heart echoing loudly. A sound so pure, it cut through the abyss. With a final burst of energy, he shouted, "We are more than shadows. We are a family. We choose love." A beautiful warmth surged through them like a tidal wave, overwhelming the shadows, harnessing the power of broken memories, shattered fears, and healing laughter. It swirled, enveloping them, drawing strength from the darkest corners of their shared past to erupt with brilliant light. The shadows screamed as they fractured, twisting and evaporating like mist under a scorching sun. They fought back, but the family's love shone brighter, illuminating the room until the thick veil of darkness began to lift, revealing the nursery bathed in the soft glow of twilight, and then, silence. Eric found himself kneeling before his children, who were gazing up at him with wide eyes filled with confusion and wonder. "Daddy?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling as if unsure what had just transpired. "What happened?" We fought," Eric breathed, tears welling in relief. "And we won." Suddenly, Claire stood beside him, looking as real as the warmth of her familiar embrace. "I'm so sorry," she murmured, her eyes glistening with painful resolve. "I lost my way, but I'll fight too." They all huddled together, letting their connection solidify beneath the threads of a shared nightmare. "The darkness might come back," Claire said softly, "but we'll always be stronger together." Eric kissed the twins' foreheads, relief flooding through him, as he felt the warmth of their innocence heal the remnants of dread still clinging to his heart. "No matter what happens, our love will guide us," he said, tightening his grip around them. A gentle breeze swept through the room, and for the first time, it felt refreshing, a sign of new beginnings, of hope. Their laughter echoed softly, radiating warmth. They were home, truly home, wrapping around each other with that unwavering familial tie. What they had faced would always linger, but Eric knew that together they could embrace whatever shadows might creep in the future. This was their victory. The family stood in the sanctuary of their love, knowing they would face whatever came next together, shadows or light, holding on to each other tightly, determined to write their own story moving forward. Now, let us talk about making sure you never miss out on what happens next. Countless tales like this await. You need to subscribe now. You don't want to miss a single word of our next chilling adventures. Smash that like button now to help the algorithm know your passion. Let's expand this amazing community together, and please, flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this thrilling conclusion. I want to hear what you think. Trust me, it matters. Finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Let us all experience the journey together.